Undeclared wars are commonplace. Tragically, our government engages in preemptive war, otherwise known as aggression, with no complaints from the American people. Sadly, we have become accustomed to living with the illegitimate use of force by government. To develop a truly free society, the issue of initiating force must be understood and rejected.
What if sometimes, to love your country, you had to alter or abolish the government? What if Jefferson was right? What if that government is best which governs least? What if it is dangerous to be right when the government is wrong? What if it is better to perish fighting for freedom than to live as a slave? What if freedom's greatest hour of danger is now?
Hi, everyone. Judge Andrew Napolitano here for Judging Freedom. Today is Tuesday, January 13th, 2026. Colonel Karen Kwiatkowski will be here with us in a moment on why the government produces fraud and chaos. But first this. History tells us every market eventually falls. Currencies collapse. And look at where we are now. 38 trillion in national debt. Stocks at record highs defying gravity. So what happens next? Groceries, gas, housing, everything's going up. And this dollar, it buys less every day. When the system breaks, your stocks won't save you and your dollars won't either. But one thing will: gold. I've said it on my show for years. Gold survives collapse. Central bankers know this and billionaires know it. That's why they're buying more. Is it too late to buy or is it just the right time? Call my friends at Lear Capital to find out. Ask questions, get the free information. There's no pressure. And that's why I buy my gold and silver from Lear. And right now you can get up to $20,000 in bonus metals with a qualified purchase. Call 800-511-4620 or go to LearJudgeNap.com today. Colonel Kwiatkowski, welcome here, my dear friend. But why is it that in the West, the media all believes that the chaos in the streets in Iran is just the spontaneous activity of people who've been repressed by the regime, rather than the product of months of preparation by Mossad, MI6, and CIA?
Yeah, well, our media is fed their storylines and their narratives and their perspectives by the government, which is the state, which is power through the use of force, and that's all they know. I mean, imagine, and we don't see this very often, certainly not recently, where an actual question, a legitimate question, is asked of the president regarding his unconstitutional activities of the day, whatever it would be. You don't even hear him asking hard questions, because the narrative is the state is good and what it does must be good and what it says must be true. And we don't look for it further. But of course, the chaos, the fraud, almost everything that's bad in our world, I think you can trace it back to the use of force, the monopoly of force that the state has, and the people that are attracted to the use of that force.
It's really the definition of the government, the entity that has a monopoly on force in a given geographic area. Now, the geographic area sometimes changes, like Israel, it keeps expanding, but most government geographic areas remain the same. I remember Jefferson, when the people fear the government, there is tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty. The government should fear the people, but it doesn't if it has a monopoly on the use of force.
Yeah, no, it really doesn't. And also, we're not a republic anymore in this country. And neither is, of course, I don't think Israel ever was, but both Israel and the United States have a long history of expanding their borders, expanding their influence, subjecting weaker powers around them to their will. This is very common in the 20th century, and certainly where we are now. So this is how we can call it a government that's accountable to people. That are they scared of us? Are they not scared of us? Actually, the empire is frightened of the people, but it assumes that it has every right to subject and control and tyrannize those people. And we can look back in history and see examples of empires and how they behaved. And very few of us really are looking at our own government through that same lens, and we need to, because it's true what Jefferson said. Government should fear the people. I think that our government does fear us, but I think it's drawn the conclusion that in order to manage us properly, they can do what they need to do. And this comes, we have this ICE shooting that happened in Minneapolis, and every people this and that, what happened, who's in the wrong. But what's really happening with ICE, as an example of this massive quasi-militarized federal police force that is armed in all of our communities, supposedly doing something that's good, right, to root out bad illegal immigrants who are doing bad things. But in fact, what it is it's a sign, I think, that our government in Washington is very frightened of the people. And we're intended, we the people in this country right now, and you'd have to say under Trump, it could be under another president, but under Trump, with his beefing up of the ICE force, making it the biggest federal police force ever, that is in response to Washington, D.C.'s fear of the people. And so they want to get a jump on that by making us afraid of our government. It's not just that we're afraid of government. Government is afraid of us, but it uses its monopoly on force to manipulate and try to fight that battle. So I guess what I'm saying is we are at war with Washington.
Why does the U.S. foment chaos?
Chaos.
Well, it was successful in 2014 in Ukraine.
Yeah. If you want to throw your enemy or your neighbor, whoever it is, you want to throw them off their best game. Well, what do? You do things that cause them to lose their concentration, lose their focus, divide their power, become scared of enemies from within and from without. So, causing chaos is an act of war in itself. I mean, it's a strategy. I shouldn't say an act of war, but to cause chaos in your enemy or your opponent is part of a strategy of war. And the CIA knows this very well. I mean, this is their profession. This is what they've been doing since World War II, when it was the OSS. They are fomenting chaos and using it and trying to manipulate it. And it's a gambler's game, because sometimes the chaos that we export or create domestically can backfire, right? I mean, there are potentials that can cause you, the government who is causing the chaos for your own advantage, actually can lose that advantage. But look at the people around our government. What do they care about? Well, they care about their investments, right? They care about their potential influence in the administration or in any administration, right? Because it doesn't really matter who's in charge, the deep state or whatever you want to call it. So, we have a lot of interested parties who see chaos abroad and chaos domestically as sheer opportunities for power enhancement and financial enhancement. And if they have a belief in something that they'd like to see, let's say it's the new world order of some sort that they might perhaps believe in, they can see chaos as a possibility there. But to explain it very simply, we can just look at how Israel views her neighbors, particularly Syria, because that was pretty recent. And chaos is made oftentimes by Israel, but it also is made to work for Israel's leaders and what it is that they're trying to accomplish, which is to stay in power, make money, gain resources, and maybe grow their territory.
Well, the Trump administration and its media acolytes for weeks have been condemning this Somalian daycare fraud in Minnesota. But you've done some fabulous research in your recent piece, Government and Fraud Go Together Like Peas and Carrots. available at judsnap.com, LouRockwell.com, and elsewhere, showing that the fraudsters that President Trump pardoned committed many times in dollars more fraud than these Somalians did. And by pardoning them, they are relieved of their obligations to repay their victims. I don't know if most people know that, but pardon wipes out everything, including the punishment.
Yeah.
When Trump pardoned Paul Manafort, the government sent him a check for $2 million because that's what they had taken from him as part of his penalty.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think if we can push down the emotion that is often being stirred up. And I think with the Somali daycare fraud, I mean, that was a fun one. Seriously, that was a fun example of somebody defrauding the government, you know, a lot of entertaining points there. But if you can put the emotion away and look at it objectively, and then look at other types of fraud, you can see that our president, past and present, I don't care who it is, but Trump in particular has a good track record of basically not being concerned at all about fraud. And this is financial fraud of the type that the Somalis were accused of doing and probably have done, you know, regarding a child care center and health and human services money. I mean, Medicare fraud, Social Security fraud, FEC, financial fraud, pyramid schemes, all of this has gone on, and many millions and even billions in restitution ordered. And in the past year, well, there was one guy, it was his first presidency. That was a really big case of fraud. That guy was pardoned, and no restitution was ever paid.
That was more than $1 billion.
Yeah, that was huge.
I think of a Native American group.
Yep. But he's just on fraud alone. I mean, you can go look at the first 6 months of the year, because that's what I looked at. Wikipedia didn't have the subsequent ones after, I think, June. But the first 6 months of the second Trump presidency, he pardoned probably $500 million worth of fraud. He pardoned the people, he cleared the records, and he vacated any restitution that they were to pay or had paid. So, you know, and that's how you look at it objectively. You say, well, does fraud happen? Why does it happen? Well, it happens because the government has zero accountability, number one. And number two, very smart people, okay, I'm not saying moral people, but very smart people are in places where they see an opportunity to steal. Now, I worked in the Pentagon or I worked in DOD, Department of War now, I guess, for over 20 years. And I saw lots of people who took advantage, contractors, other people. And we see the revolving doors that the senior officers go through to get the big bucks, and how they sometimes get in trouble for throwing a contract to an overpriced contractor. This is normal. This is how government operates. And, you know, I am definitely never surprised to see it. If you wanted to get rid of fraud, you would have a very close control over your finances to begin with, right? And you would monitor them. We don't do that. Government doesn't do that. Doge was supposed to do some of that, and they were shocked at the massive waste. But, government doesn't monitor its money because it doesn't want to. Too many friends are getting rich off of that. But also they don't monitor it because it's not their money, obviously. And we all know that, right? I mean, the government doesn't make money. It prints dollars, but anything of value that it has been produced by people, okay? People and people working together in businesses, okay? That's pretty much how the government accumulates.
Well, everything the government has, it is stolen. Everything.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And, when you have it's just like if you, say you win the lottery and you didn't expect to, and you didn't really think about it a lot, and you had a lot of money that seemed like to you a lot of money, you would probably spend some of that money frivolously. And I think we do know that people who win the lottery often spend it very frivolously and end up in worse shape than they were before they won. But it's because it's like a gift. It's like unearned money, and that's how the government people view the money. They do not think of it as very few government officials, bureaucrats, or anybody else really thinks about what they are doing to our country, and if they profit from. I mean, even the Congress doesn't think this way. What's up? What's with all the the secret insider trading that goes on. They're trying to outlaw it. I guess now they probably won't be successful in doing that. But again, it's about, hey, it's a big system. Nobody's going to miss this. Hey, I'm doing a good job for the country. Why shouldn't I buy a stock? I mean, I didn't really seek out the information. I just happened to be in the room when they were talking about all the kinds of justifications. And again, I'm talking about morality and accountability. And Trump's latest little statement about he's bound by nothing other than his own morality, it's very concerning because we know the level of real moral restraint that is present in government service of any type, whether it's elective service or bureaucrats. And I don't mean to broad brush all the bureaucrats who are trying to do a good job, but the fact is you're working for a criminal entity. If you work for the government, you're working for a criminal entity.
Here's Trump's statement, Chris, cut number 2.
Do you see any checks on your power on the world stage? Is there anything that could stop you if you wanted to?
Yeah, there's one thing, my own morality, my own mind. It's the only thing that can stop, and that's
law.
very good. I don't need international law. I'm not looking to hurt people.
I don't know what he means by the follow-up. I'm not looking to hurt people. But when he says he doesn't need international law, he's rejecting the Geneva Conventions, the UN Charter, the Treaty on Torture. There's at least a dozen of those treaties. He's rejecting the Constitution, which says only Congress can declare war. Only Congress can impose taxes, whether you call them tariffs or sales taxes, or whatever you want to call them. He's assaulting the Republic.
Yeah, he is. And he's also presuming that he somehow, as a single human being, knows what's happening in the world. And it's very clear that Trump does not know what's happening in the world. Okay, because of his morality, and his morality is guiding him in the right direction, and he doesn't seek to hurt people. Then how come we have 650,000 dead men, women, and children in Gaza? Why is that, Mr. Trump? I think those people were probably being hurt. I think many of the survivors that are living in tents in the winter and being shot at, even though there's a so-called ceasefire, if you're so not interested in hurting people and you're so guided by your morality and you're so powerful because you don't need other people to allow you to do things, then how come you haven't nipped that in the bud? How come you haven't ended the genocide in Gaza? Because there's one country that could do it, and that's the United States. That is the president of the United States. He could do it, and he could do it in a moment's notice. Okay, and he hasn't chosen to do that. So I think his credibility on he's not interested in hurting people. I mean, wasn't it just 3 weeks ago he was shooting? He was having the Navy shoot people hanging off of boats because they were supposedly part of a cartel. That turns out, oh, by the way, we made that cartel up. We really didn't have a cartel de la Sol. There wasn't one. We just used that. We just said that. But those folks that got shot, they felt pain. They died. They drowned. Their families now don't have them around. So I don't buy what Trump is saying. And I think the fact that he is blurting these things out, probably in his own mind, he thinks they're true. I think that's very dangerous. I mean, again, we have a constitution. We have the possibility to impeach presidents, but we never use it for anything other than we don't like the guy. We never impeach for real impeachable offenses. But if we
have you seen this, Chris, the full screen? Trump posted this, proclaiming himself the acting president of Venezuela. So if you combine this with the clip that we just watched, which is the interview by Trump before New York Times reporters, which went on for a couple of hours, by the way, that's just one clip from it that made the headlines. What do you think of his mental capacity?
Well, he fits the definition of a megalomaniac. Okay. Possibly with some narcissistic tendencies. I mean, if we want to armchair diagnose the guy. But yeah, he has a great belief, not just in himself, which we knew that he had. I mean, that's what makes Trump really great. I mean, he does have a strong belief in himself. But as president, he is merging the concept of the United States of America into the personhood of DJT, right? he believes he is America. And and we didn't buy, I don't think the American people voted on him to become the face of America, perhaps. I don't know. I mean, it's a very powerful, he's a president without restraint. I don't know how powerful he is personally, but he seems to be unrestrained, certainly not by the Congress, not by the law. His friends, I think, have some ability to control him, but his friends are all rotten to the core. I mean, this is a bad problem. When your best friend is Bibi Netanyahu, you got a problem. He is not going to help you be a better person. He's not going to help you do things good for this country.
Here is one of his, former closest advisors, Anthony Scaramucci. Watch this.
Miller and Trump are fascists. Okay, let's just stipulate that. And they're being unchecked by the U.S. Congress, who is very fearful of him, and they are intimidated by him. And those are the facts.
And he was democratically elected.
And he's so was Hitler. Hitler rose to power on the 30th of January, 1933. He's democratically elected Chancellor of Germany. So what we know about, and by the way, think about what Trump is doing with January 6th. Okay, it's 5 years later. He's revived, and that's what classically what fascists do. But listen, if he loses the midterms, he said something last night that he knows he's going to get impeached because he's got an emoluments clause issue. He's broken the
not profiting from the presidency.
Yeah, he's broken the Constitution. He's done a whole series of things that's going to cause a huge amount of problems for him. So your viewers know he's a fascist, and I know he's a fascist. And so the question is, are you going to check him or not? And if you're going to let 3 more years go with this fascist-like behavior, it's going to be a problem.
The emoluments clause issue is the clause in the Constitution that prohibits the president from using his relationships with foreign governments to enrich himself.
Oh my gosh, that ought to be an easy one.
I wonder who's enforcing that, Karen.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I just read about new golf courses and Trump buildings in the UAE and elsewhere. But yeah, he's an interesting case. I have to say, I am not 100% sure he's going to lose in the midterms. We're in an interesting time, and people who don't pay attention or just rely on a gut feeling about where the country is going and how it's led, many of those people are going to probably feel like it's kind of crazy, but I kind of like it. And if that's the case, then he will retain. He'll retain a majority. It's very important that he does this for himself, and he knows this. He's quite aware that he needs a compliant and supine Congress in these last 2 years. He knows this, but he might just be able to do it. I think what people need to do, because voting is just not it. I think we have to make plans we have to choose a side. What kind of America are we going to live in? And plan, because that America has been taken away from us, right? I mean, I'm scared of any cop in uniform. I don't care if it's a federal cop. There used to not even be federal cops. You'd never see them. But now, of course, we see them in our communities. So the government is flexing its domestic muscles, both obviously here, and it's also engaging in really gambling-like behavior abroad, taking an awful lot of chances, which are going to hurt this country. Most likely we're going to see great pain as a result of this. So if that's the future, then we need to think about how do we take care of ourselves in that situation. Our freedom of speech very much may be almost as constrained as what we see the UK doing right now. In 3 more years, I would not be surprised. So if we care about our natural rights, if we care about the way the Constitution limits federal power, then we need to decide that we care about it and do something about it. And that is, voting is such a tiny part of that. If it's anything, most of the times the candidates all lie. So we have to take care of our own country. And if it has enemies in Washington, which it always has, if the enemy is the state, which I believe it always has been, we need to step up our game a little bit.
Colonel Kwiatkowski, a pleasure, my dear friend.
Same here.
Thank you very much for your time, and we'll talk again next week. All the best.
Absolutely. Thank you, Judge.
You're welcome. Tomorrow, Wednesday, 8 in the morning, Gilbert Doctorow, 10 in the morning from Tehran. I hope we can make the connection. Professor Mohammed Morandi, 2 in the afternoon, the great Max Blumenthal, 3 in the afternoon, the great Phil Giraldi. Judge Napolitano for Judging Freedom.